Hi everybody. I am going to walk you guys through the Nephron. Again, this is something that I would have drawn on the board had we had the pleasure and the opportunity to meet face to face. But anyway, so at this point, hopefully you've reviewed a little bit of the microanatomy of the nephron, which is of course the major structural and functional unit of the kidneys. So we're going to start with what we call the renal corpuscle. All right, so let's see. I'm going to write this over here. So we have the renal corpuscle, and the renal corpuscle is made up of two different structures. First, we have blood supply, which comes in and is just basically a tangle of capillaries. And that tangle of capillaries is called the glomerulus. All right, so we've got the glomerulus, which is this guy right here. I'm trying to see how I can do this. Here we go. All right. So that tangle of blood vessels is called the glomerulus, all right? And so just so we remember, we have blood supply coming in and out. So we've got blood supply coming in, blood supply coming out of that structure. And the one coming in is the afferent arteriole, and the one coming out is the efferent arteriole. All right, so the other part of the renal corpuscle is this structure called Bowman's capsule. Sometimes, you can refer to it as Bowman's space. They're slightly different, but close enough for our purposes. And what this is, it's sort of like a funnel here. Okay, I'm gonna go like this, we're gonna go like that. All right, so we're gonna get to this part in just a minute. But Bowman's space is going to be this area kind of right in here. It's Bowman's capsule, all right? And this capsule is going to meet up with the glomerulus, all right? So you kind of do have a little bit and without different colors, but you kind of do have a little bit of a lining of the capsule here, all right, but it meets up with the lining of the glomerulus there, all right? So this is going to be Bowman's capsule or Bowman's space, whichever one you want to think of it. So this is going to be step one of urine formation, okay? So this is going to be step number one, and I'll put steps down here. Number one is our filtration. Okay, so that's going to happen here in the corpuscle. We're going to have different things that are found within our blood that are sort of waste products. And as you go through the slides, you'll figure out exactly what we're talking about, which type of nutrients and which type of molecules. But they will be filtered, taken from the blood supply, and moved into Bowman's capsule. All right, so the glomerulus and Bowman's capsule together are known as the renal corpuscle. So next, we're going to move into the renal tubule, and it has a number of different parts. So I'm just going to draw it all right quick here. So just going to draw, and if I had a little bit more space, I would draw it just a little bit bigger, but Okay, so we've got that, and then we're going to move into here. I'll mention what those offshoots are here in just a minute. Okay, so all of this right here, and again, I'm sort of running out of room, but all of this to about right here, this is our renal our renal tubule or renal tube, okay? It has a number of different names depending on the textbook that you're using, but it has a number of sections. So the first section, and I'm just going to abbreviate, the first section of the tube is the proximal convoluted tubule, all right? And so I've drawn it kind of straight just with these wavy lines. And if you really look at it in the textbook, you'll see that it's actually very convoluted and sort of all mixed up. So I just represent it in this way. And then you see this big loop, all right? So this big loop is our loop of Henle, all right? So you see there's a descending portion and an ascending portion. So this is gonna be our descending loop of Henle, and then this is going to be our ascending loop of Henle. All right, and then you see the distal convoluted tubule, which is a pretty short little section right there. Also mostly is very convoluted and all kind of wrapped up on each other, so I just abbreviate it like that. So the distal convoluted tubule is going to meet up with this structure right here that is called the collecting duct. Now the collecting duct is going to be common to multiple nephrons, so that's why we see all these offshoots here. These are going to be distal convoluted tubules of other nephrons. Okay. So we've gotten, if we go back to the glomerulus here, we've gotten a bunch of solutes, a bunch of water, a bunch of different things filtered, and they've made it into this renal tube here, okay? So as the filtrate, which is what we call it before it becomes urine, moves through all of these different sections of the tubule, different things happen. Okay, and I'll come right back to that. But nonetheless, if the material makes it all the way through the distal convoluted tubule and all the way through the collecting duct and sort of out towards the bladder, that's when we ultimately call it urine. Before that, it's just the filtrate. So the next couple things that have to happen, and these happen throughout the renal tube. First, we have reabsorption. Okay, reabsorption is a rescue mission. So anything that is reabsorbed is going to move out of the renal tube back to the body. All right, and this can happen in a number of different locations there, all right? I don't have any other colors or I would color code it, but anything that moves out of the tubule, so we're moving out of the renal tube, saved for the body. That's going to be things that are reabsorbed. And at the same time, we have secretion. So secretion is movement of items into the tube and excreted as urine. All right, so secretion would be back the opposite way. All right, so we'd have things moving into the tubule, and that can happen all along the length of the tubule as well. A lot of times things that are secreted, a lot of times they are things that have bypassed filtration for whatever reason, okay? Not always, but sometimes. All right, so we would need to secrete anything that we really need to get out, that we really need to pee out. That would be a waste product, okay? So this is the basic microanatomy of the nephron. All right, so we've got the renal corpuscle here with the glomerulus and Bowman's capsule. And then you move into the renal tube, and I'll sort of write this down because this is going to be that next section here. So we've got the corpuscle, two things. The renal tubule is going to have the proximal convoluted tubule. It's going to have the descending loop of Henle, followed by the ascending loop of Henle, followed by the distal convoluted tubule. Can you guys see that? Okay. And then lastly, there are some sources that consider the collecting duct part of the renal tubule, and that is because things like reabsorption can still happen in that collecting duct, and that is something that we'll go over in the other PowerPoints. But I'm just going to throw the collecting duct down here just so we don't confuse anybody. It's not technically part of the renal tube, but it is the next step, and you can still have some of that reabsorption happening in that collecting duct. So those are going to be the portions of that renal tube, or the renal tubule, whatever you want to call it. I will say that I have simplified this for us. Specifically, the descending and the ascending portion both have like a thick and a thin portion. We're not really going to cover all of that, just to get you a little bit more simplified here. So as we are going through the PowerPoints, I would encourage you to like maybe draw this out, or have this recording up so that you can keep referring back to these things. So if I say, oh, this is going to happen in the proximal convoluted tubule, then you have sort of an idea and a visual of where that is, that's maybe a little bit more simplified and not so complicated with a lot of extraneous information.